Now to go to the eNCA money desk. My colleague Devin Morgan is standing by. Devin, very good afternoon to you. Is there a significant petrol price issue coming up next week? What are we going to know about petrol price? Up or down?
Yeah, no, definitely there's a cut. I mean, there's no question about that. So the official figures are still to be released by the Energy Department. But I mean, if you consider all the preliminary figures, as the AA does very often, it's almost certain that the fuel price will come with a significant cut next week. Let's just take a quick look before we speak to the Automobile Association as to what you can expect. All right, and believe me, this is relief for many people who have experienced that consecutive cuts throughout the first part of the year. Petrol, as per the estimates, down about R2.18 for 93, R2.35 for 95. If you're driving a diesel vehicle, up to 87 cents of a cut come Wednesday. And of course, paraffin, which we always bring up because there's still a lot of South African households that still use paraffin as a fuel, according to AA estimates. Come Wednesday, you might see an 82-cent cut over there. All right, so let's bring in Layton from the AA. He joins us now for more on that. There was a significant uptick in the rand, at least the last few days of the month, Layton, but that presumably is not going to be, too much of a consideration, given that the oil price weakened significantly, and that's where the relief is coming, right? Have I got that correct?
You absolutely have that 100% correct, Devin. And, even though the rand was weaker against the US dollar in the last couple of days, on average, it's been stronger over August. So that is obviously a positive sign. I think worrying is that, at one stage during the middle of the month, the rand was trading at around 16 rand 16 to the dollar. It's currently in that band of around 720 to 730. That's obviously going to play out over the next couple of weeks. But for the moment, certainly it hasn't had a material impact on the predicted fuel price decreases. In fact, it is still contributing, just in a very smaller way than it may have done earlier. But yes, the big 95% of the reduction that we're expecting to see next Wednesday is as a result of that downward trend in international petroleum prices.
Layton, I want to get into government's intervention into the petrol price in a moment. We've been speaking about that for months now. But for now, it's safe to say that while, we are seeing a petrol price cut come this week, we are still at very elevated levels in pricing, are we not, for fuel? So the economy is still reeling from this. We're still feeling the effects of that gigantic fuel price hikes since the start of the year.
Yeah, absolutely correct. I mean, when the fuel price goes up, I think there's a very immediate reaction to that in terms of how people who use fuel for input costs relate to it. So the agricultural sector, the mining sector, the freight sector, all of these different sectors that rely on fuel as an input cost are going to feel that immediately, and that will get passed on to consumers. When there's a decrease, as we've seen now, and let's not forget there were quite sizable increases in June and July. When we get to a situation where we have decreases as what we're seeing at the moment, everybody's going to hedge their bets a little bit in terms of, can we pass that on immediately? Is this something that is going to decrease our input costs? And it's not on an immediate basis. So you'll see a decrease to the fuel price filtering in over a longer period than what a fuel increase is going to filter. So yes, I mean, absolutely correct. Consumers are still going to feel the brunt of the increases that we had earlier in the year. And we know that consumers are embattled. And I think that the point that you're making is also significant, Devin, that fuel prices don't only impact on people that have vehicles or motorbikes or whatever vehicle they have. It impacts on every single consumer in the country because of those input costs and how they filter into other goods and services that we use. So absolutely correct. It's good news, but certainly the effects of the previous increases will continue to filter into our economy.
I almost fell off the chair as I walked down to studio. Took a look at that market figure, as we normally do on the market indicators, 17 Rand 30 to the US dollar at the moment. So just looking forward, if that rand misbehaves in the coming weeks, Layton, and we do see some sort of recovery, again, I mean, sad to say, I mean, not to put the gloom on there, but then this could be a different picture next month.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put my head on that block just yet, Devin. I know you'd like me to, but I'm not going to. I think let's be positive and see what happens to the rand in the coming days. I think certainly everybody that's watching that number is hoping that there's a reversal in the stars very soon. But I think fortunately it's worked out on averages, and in this case in September, those averages have actually played in our favor because yes, we've seen in the last week that rand has climbed, but the averages, the low averages that we had in the beginning of the month, are coming into play. What's going to happen to the rand in the next couple of days and weeks? I mean, anybody's guess on that, and it's the same with international petroleum prices. We will obviously want to see the rand stronger, and we'd like to see those international prices lower. But further than that, I think it's a question of wait and see how it plays out over the next couple of weeks.
Fair enough. Just quickly before I let you go, I mean, I've just heard some commentary from you as well that, look, there's a suggestion by other groups that you've got to scrap this general fuel price levy. This is all in this combination of efforts to alleviate the high cost of fuel in the country. You were saying don't fiddle around with that. That's not going to really help. What we should do is go ahead and re-look at the pricing structure. That still stands as your position from the AA, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And I think we do have some touch points with what other people are saying. I mean, in terms of the road accident fund levy, we believe there are savings to be realized in terms of that tax. Again, and we've had this conversation before, it all relates back to why we have this reliance on the RAF in the first place. It's because our road safety record in South Africa is so poor, so we need to be looking at that. But certainly in terms of the general fuel levy, there's a lot of people that are calling for the scrapping of that levy, saying once you do away with that, you just immediately save R3.94 on every litre of petrol. That may be the case. The problem, of course, is that government is reliant on that 90 billion rand plus it generates from that levy annually, and is going to be loath to just do away with it. They will find alternative ways to generate those funds, and those alternative ways may be even more painful than the R3.94 we're currently paying. In our view, that may be a short-term solution to a long-term problem, and we need to get the reversal of that. We need a long-term solution to what is a long-term problem, and just simply scrapping the GFL is not, in our view, going to be the solution. We need to understand every single component that goes into the fuel price. We need to understand import parity pricing and whether that is correct or not. We need to audit all of those different components. We need to see, what all of those components contribute to the fuel price and whether they're all still necessary. That, for us, is the way forward. And I think what we have seen is that government is considering various things, which I think is encouraging because they're taking it seriously. But this is something we think needs to happen sooner rather than later.
All right. Well, fair enough. Always a pleasure talking to you. Layton Beard from the Automobile Association. All right.